Did you know that 40% of the food we produce is wasted? Yes, you heard it right. It's 40%. For every 10 kilograms of food produced globally, people get to eat only 6 kilograms. 4 out of 10 kilograms goes down the drain. The tragic thing is, at the same time, 25,000 people are dying every single day on the planet due to extreme hunger. Also, 2 years from now, 42% of the world population will be considered overweight. Isn't all that absurd? Hunger deaths, food wastage, rising obesity, everything happening together. The mainstream media is telling us that the Russia-Ukraine war started the food crisis we are seeing today. But the food crisis and food inflation have been around for decades. The war is less than 2 years old. What is really happening with our food? Let's find out. Thanks for tuning in. This is Ratna. You are watching Diaries. Food wastage has taken gigantic proportions in the last few decades. It is shocking that 40% of the food we produce gets thrown away. Let's first quickly understand what we mean by food wastage. Food wastage is something that can be practically avoided if correct steps are taken. It is different from food loss due to natural calamities. Food wastage happens in 4 stages. It includes leftover food that we throw into the dustbin at home or in restaurants and hotels. It includes crops rotting in the farmland because farmers can't sell them due to low prices. Food wastage also happens due to the manufacturing and transportation stage. Food rejected by retailers because they don't match the desired color and appearance is also considered wasted. Let's look at some disturbing numbers. It is estimated that 250 crore tons of food is wasted globally every year. 1 ton equals to 1,000 kilograms. Out of the 250 crore tons, 120 crore tons of food is wasted on the farmland. Here is an easy way to make sense of the quantity of food wasted on farms. 120 crore tons of food is the collective weight of 10 million blue whales. Well, blue whales are 80 to 19 meters long. That should give you an idea of the precious loss of food at the farming stage. In monetary terms, food that dies on farmland is worth a little over 3,000 crore rupees. The majority of the food wastage happens at the time it is grown or produced. But that doesn't mean food wastage is very low at the retail and household level. The UN has found that 93 crore tons of food is wasted every year in kitchens, homes, restaurants, hotels, parties, and grocery stores. Do you know what is the total weight of that wasted food? Imagine loading large trucks with that wasted food. You will have 2.3 crore fully loaded trucks. Now, if you line them up bumper to bumper, the line of trucks will be long enough to circle the planet 7 times. The World Wide Fund recently investigated the food crisis and found something very interesting. It shattered the myth that food wastage mainly happens in poor and disorganized countries. Both food wastage and food loss are much higher in high-income countries than in poor countries. It's very high in US, Canada, all across Western Europe, and in the industrialized parts of Asia. The leaders of these countries often lecture us on human rights, progress, and togetherness. But the so-called developed world is responsible for the majority of the food wastage. One investigation found that 58% of food wastage at the harvest stage happens in several rich countries in Europe, North America, and Asia, even though they are home to only 37% of the world population. What about Bharat when it comes to food wastage? What do we know? There is no precise official data from government sources. The UN's Food and Agricultural Organization recently estimated that 40% of the food produced in the country is wasted every year. It reflects the global average, and yet again, most of the food is wasted well before it reaches the final consumer. A large portion of the wasted food in Bharat comprises fruits and vegetables. Here is a shocking fact. The quantity of fruits and veggies wasted here is more than what the entire population of Britain consumes. The weight of all the food that is wasted here annually is 6.7 crore tons. That's a shocking number considering Bharat is an epicenter of starvation deaths. If you look at the fruits and veggies alone, more than 1/3 of it gets wasted due to poor storage facilities and transport problems. A report published by the Monitor Earth 5R claims the average Indian wastes 137 grams of food every day. 137 grams of food every day is wasted by an average Indian. Let's now look at the opposite end of the absurd food crisis. As of now, there are close to 90 crore people in the world who are severely food insecure, which means they will go to bed extremely hungry tonight. In fact, it is estimated that 310 crore people in the world do not have access to a healthy diet. That is 39% of the entire global population. Expectedly, Africa, Asia, and South America are the three continents in that order that are most badly hit by hunger. Africa alone is home to 20% of the world population facing chronic hunger. In our country, where 40% of the food is wasted, hunger is a major crisis as revealed by the 2022 Global Hunger Index. The index ranked Bharat as the 107th position among 121 nations that were studied. The ranking declared that the country is officially passing through a serious hunger crisis. Popular media outlets are not reporting this. The point is, there is more than enough food produced to feed every human being on earth. Then why are almost 90 crore people are still facing a chronic hunger crisis? Isn't it atrocious that 140 lakh children around the world suffer from acute malnutrition? Even worse, hunger alone kills 45% of children who die every day. The other big food-related monster we often overlook is obesity. It is predicted that by the year 2025, 42% of the global population will fall in the category of overweight people and 17% of the people will be considered obese. That shows how deeply the junk food industry is controlling the masses, especially the urban population. The US, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar are some of the world's biggest epicenters of the obesity outbreak, thanks to poor lifestyles, binge eating, and junk food. Did you know that obesity kills a total of half a crore people every year? It is a dark irony. On one hand, we have thousands of daily hunger deaths. At the same time, we have an obesity outbreak. And along with that, we are seeing record high food wastage. Now, the interesting thing is, since Russia's invasion of Ukraine started in February last year, the global media has been selling a certain narrative. We are being constantly told that an acute food crisis has broken out due to the invasion, that ending the war will end the crisis. But it's a misleading picture given by the paid media, which follows whatever the Western media shows. Navdanya International, a food and farmer rights watchdog, has published an investigation that exposes this enormous media lie. Navdanya is piloted by environmental activist and food scientist Vandana Shiva. The report debunks the theory that Ukraine war alone is responsible for the global food crisis. What is the media repeatedly telling us? That Ukraine and Russia are the world's biggest exporters of wheat and sunflower oil. Therefore, because of the war and turmoil, the global supply of wheat has fallen, and that's why the prices of all kinds of food have jumped up. But this is far from truth. Navdanya's investigation found that the invasion couldn't have caused a wheat supply crisis. That's because, firstly, before the Russian invasion, Ukraine had already managed high levels of wheat production. All the export stocks had left the country well before the war started. So a huge quantity of wheat was already out in the marketplace when the war broke out. Secondly, since there was a fear of a wheat supply crisis, many other countries which produced high level of wheat released the stocks in the market. Therefore, the supply of wheat simply couldn't be driving the food inflation. There was plenty of wheat available despite the war. Based on these findings, Navdanya's investigation concluded that the food supply is not the problem. The problem is the over-speculation of food and food grain prices. The global food supply and distribution network is owned not by governments. It is controlled by a small number of gigantic agribusiness corporations. In simple words, this small bunch of corporations were gambling and over-speculating with food and food grain prices. And that resulted in the unprecedented rise in food prices all over the world. The war was just an excuse to push up prices in the marketplace and profit from it. In the Navdanya report, Vandana Shiva wrote, every crisis in history was used by the wheat monopolies to increase their profits and control. The riots over bread in the Arab world, referred to as the Arab Spring, were the result of rising wheat and bread prices due to financial speculation. Food has been turned into a commodity, a financial asset. If you look beyond TV news headlines, you will realize two important things. One, the absurd food crisis we are seeing today is not new. It is the legacy of a failed food control system that has been around for many decades. It's just that the mainstream media is right now gaslighting us by saying the Ukraine war has triggered the food crisis. Instead, the food crisis, which essentially revolves around food inflation, but there long before the war, it will continue even if the conflict ends. The second crucial point to look at is the root cause of the food crisis. According to Vandana Shiva and many other food activists, the problem lies in the financialization of the food system. Our food system is structured around power. The system of food control by the powerful corporate class didn't happen overnight. It started with the Green Revolution and later with the push for more and more free trade. A 2010 book by Vandana Shiva exposes the rot. It's called Violence of the Green Revolution. Economist Jayati Ghosh gives us an interesting perspective that confirms that the food crisis is the work of corporate powers. She argues that wheat is produced globally, therefore supply shortages in one part of the world, such as Ukraine, can easily be compensated by more production in other locations. It is misleading to blame the food crisis on events such as a single war. So who is behind the false narrative and the rise of food prices? Jayati Ghosh says the answer lies in the classic hint, follow the money. She recently pointed out that one simply has to look at the balance sheets of major food grain companies. Right now, only 4 companies control nearly 90% of the global food grain trade. They are called the ABCD companies: ADM, Bunge, Cargill, and Louis Dreyfus. Now, all 4 of them are posting sharply higher profits from 2021 onwards, especially in 2022. The world was told that profits went up because of high demand of food grains and shorter supply from Ukraine. Yet, the supply problem and the rise in the demand never really happened. It turned out to be a media fabrication. So clearly, the large agribusiness companies increased their prices at will. There are a few other agri-food companies as well which dominate the market. They include Syngenta, Bayer, DuPont, BASF, John Deere, Wilmar, and Nutrien. A recent study by Grain, a food supply watchdog, found that fertilizer companies made a fortune as the Ukraine war started. Profits of the world's 9 biggest fertilizer companies went up from $28 billion in 2021 to $49 billion in 2022. Now, a close look shows that their profits didn't go up because of higher sales. They went up because these companies increased the prices of their fertilizers by using the war as an excuse. So here we have a food crisis that has existed for a long time. The question is, why is the global food system lying broken for so long? Why is food supply not decentralized? Why are only a few multinational companies controlling what we eat? In fact, we need to ask even deeper questions. We keep seeing flashy G7 and G20 summits every year. Then there is the sophisticated UN food program. What are all of them doing? Just holding meetings and summits and dishing out lectures and imaginary targets. These international bodies exist for the public. Their events happen on public money. But who do they really serve? Thanks for watching. Do keep following us because we cover the cover-ups. Haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet? Subscribe now. Don't forget to press the bell icon so that you get notified whenever we publish a report. Follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. WhatsApp get updates to 98210-45739 for news and analysis you are not told. Visit our website empirediaries.com for more in-depth articles, columns and reports. Stay informed, stay awake.